Let me ask you something. Think of the last person you had a crush on. Now ask yourself honestly, did you want to be with them or did you want to be them? Because those are two completely different feelings, and your brain was never going to tell you which one it was. You had to figure that out yourself. Most people never do. Here is what a crush is supposed to feel like. You think about them constantly. You notice when they walk into a room before anyone else does. You replay conversations you had with them 3 weeks ago at 2 in the morning. You feel something warm and uncomfortable and completely out of your control. And you call it a crush. That feels right. That feels accurate. Except there is another feeling that produces every single one of those symptoms. And it has nothing to do with attraction. Psychologists call it admiration. The deep, almost painful appreciation for someone who has something you want, their confidence, their talent, the way they carry themselves, the way other people look at them. Admiration feels almost identical to attraction, and your brain, for reasons that made perfect sense once, never built a wall between them. It just threw both feelings into the same room and handed you one label: crush. Here is where it gets harder to ignore. When you see someone you're attracted to, your brain releases a specific combination of chemicals. Dopamine, which tells you this person is a reward. Norepinephrine, which sharpens your focus and raises your heart rate. And serotonin, which drops, which is why you can't stop thinking about them. That combination is what a crush feels like from the inside. Now here's the part nobody tells you. When you deeply admire someone, when you watch them do something and feel that aching pull of wanting what they have, your brain releases the same chemicals. Not similar chemicals, the same ones. Dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, identical recipe, which means your brain is handing you the same feeling for two completely different situations and expecting you to know the difference. It doesn't label the bottle. You have to read it yourself. And most people never stop long enough to try. But the chemistry is only the surface. There is something underneath it that explains why this confusion doesn't just happen occasionally. It happens almost every time, and the reason goes back further than you'd expect. In the 1990s, a group of Italian neuroscientists were studying monkeys when they noticed something strange. A monkey would reach for a piece of food. Expected. Normal. But then the researchers noticed that when the monkey simply watched another monkey reach for food, the same neurons fired. Not similar neurons. The exact same ones. The brain, it turned out, does not draw a clean line between watching someone do something and doing it yourself. They called these mirror neurons, and humans have them too. Here is why that matters for your crush. When you watch someone who has something you deeply want, confidence, skill, a kind of ease you've never felt, your mirror neurons light up. Your brain begins to simulate being them, feeling what they feel, moving through the world the way they move through it. And that simulation produces a pull, a magnetism, something that feels from the inside almost exactly like wanting to be close to them. Your brain isn't confused, it's just running the wrong program under the right name. Now here is where this stops being interesting and starts being important. Because the difference between a crush and admiration isn't just a label, it changes what you actually need. If what you're feeling is genuine attraction, then closeness is what resolves it. You want to know them. Spend time with them. Build something with them. But if what you're feeling is admiration dressed up as attraction, closeness doesn't help. It often makes it worse. Think about the people you've had feelings for who seemed perfect from a distance. Then you got closer. And slowly, without being able to explain why, the feeling started dissolving. Not because they changed, because the simulation ended. Your brain had been running a version of them built from everything you wanted to see. The moment reality stepped in, the program crashed. That wasn't a failed crush. That was admiration running out of distance to survive on. Here is the pattern that researchers have noticed and that almost nobody talks about openly. The people we tend to develop the strongest feelings for are rarely the people most compatible with us. They are the people most different from how we currently see ourselves. The person who seems effortlessly confident when you feel invisible. The person who seems completely certain when you feel like you're guessing at everything. The person who seems to belong in every room while you're still figuring out how rooms work. A 2010 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people consistently rated Individuals higher in attractiveness when those individuals displayed qualities the observer felt they personally lacked. Read that again. We are drawn to people who have what we don't. Not always because we want them. Sometimes because we want what they represent, a version of ourselves that doesn't exist yet. And your brain, running on dopamine and mirror neurons and 10,000 years of social wiring, calls that feeling love. It isn't lying to hurt you. It is just working with the only tools it has. And here is the part that should have been taught somewhere but wasn't. Admiration is not a lesser feeling. It is not a consolation prize for a crush that turned out to be fake. Admiration is your brain telling you something real about yourself. It is pointing at a quality, a way of being, a version of a life, and saying, that is something you want. The person you are looking at is not necessarily the destination. They are the signal. The feeling isn't about them. It is a map. And the place it is pointing to isn't them. It is a version of you that doesn't exist yet, but could. So how do you actually tell the difference? There is no perfect test, but there are questions worth asking. When you imagine being with them, what does that actually look like? Do you imagine conversations, arguments, ordinary Tuesday afternoons, or do you mostly imagine how you'd feel about yourself standing next to them? When they do something you admire, do you feel warmth toward them? Or do you feel something closer to hunger? A wanting that is harder to name. If they lost the thing you admire most about them, would the feeling survive? These are not comfortable questions, but they are the right ones, because spending months, sometimes years, chasing a feeling that was never about another person is one of the quietest ways to lose time you didn't know you were spending. Your brain is not broken. It is ancient. It was built for a world where the line between wanting someone and wanting what they have didn't need to be this clear. But you live in a world where it does. The crush you've been carrying around might be exactly what it feels like. Or it might be a map your brain drew for you because it didn't know how else to show you where you're trying to go. Either way, the feeling is real. The question is just what it's actually pointing at. And now, at least, you know to ask.